Welcome back to another episode of the Selective Podcast. I'm your host, Exsar, and this week I'm joined by our co-host T for an interview episode with Sam, aka Zuckerswag. Sam has a sneaker resale business where he provides limited edition and rare sneakers with a hint of streetwear on the side. We're going to get into his business, thoughts on sneaker culture, and much, much more. But before we get into it, man, T, it's good to have you back on the pod. How are you doing, bro?
Doing good, man. Happy we managed to finally get this podcast together. You know, Sam's been a friend of mine for a while, so I've been wanting to get him on the pod to talk a bit about his business and whatnot. So, you know, Sam, I'm happy to have you here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was definitely a pleasure. It is a pleasure.
Sam, we've been talking about getting you on for a while. Based out of the UK, just wanted to, before we get into everything, how has been life this past year? I know it's been crazy for a lot of people, but how has the pandemic been where you're at in the world?
Staying positive, but I guess if I had to pick like one word to describe it, it would be pretty lame. I feel like would be the word I would choose. I mean, like it started off kind of like everyone was saying, oh, it's only going to be a 2-month kind of thing, yeah. It was kind of like comical, like lockdown. Like I think most people have never in their life experienced something like that. So I didn't really know what to expect, but it was, I mean, now I can't even remember what life was like normally. And I think in London, personal opinion, I'm happy for anyone to have a different opinion, but I feel like London has really got it wrong on every single day. Like every single day they make the wrong decision, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, like I'm very excited to try and leave London at this stage, because my opinion on how things are going to look going forward for London is quite bleak. Like I just did a master's, and all the kids in my class, or all the people in my class, definitely not kids, have had no success getting jobs in London. They've all had to apply out of the country. So I don't know what's in store for London, but I feel like London was not the place to be during coronavirus, and I don't think it's the place to be going forward. I think in reselling too, it can go full circle in that side of things, but the market I think had a boom like in March, April, May of 2020, where everyone was kind of like, yeah, I'm home all day, I can just buy whatever shoes I've always wanted to buy, or it's time for me to start selling all the shoes that I've had hoarded up for months. But now it's getting to the point where like you don't go out, so you don't wear your shoes, and a lot of businesses are going out of money or going bankrupt, so people aren't spending as much money. And things don't look good.
That's an interesting point. I mean, the pandemic response in the United States has been different too, but I think we've been fortunate, T and I, with like being able to get the vaccines hella early, and then like seeing like other countries not have access to vaccines. It's just been like a crazy ride, man. But but in terms of like the business side, right? Like obviously you've been selling sneakers for a long time. Did the pandemic kind of change like your business in a way? Like were you nervous at all at the start of the pandemic? And are people still buying shoes like they used to?
I think that's kind of like I mean, the pandemic has been quite long. I mean, not in the grand scheme of things long, but now it's getting to like, I guess, 18 months time frame. And I think I personally, at least, have noticed a difference between like 6 months into it versus now 18 months into it. And at the start, I was excited because now I had so much time surrounded by all my inventory to actually just like focus on selling it or curating whatever I wanted to curate. Like it really allowed me to have more time in the day because I wasn't going anywhere or doing like no commuting, no distractions. So in the beginning, I was very excited, but now it's getting to the point where like I'm a little bit concerned just about what the future looks like, because I know a lot of people are sitting on quite a lot of stock that they can't sell no matter how hard they try.
So you think that the sneaker market has taken a hit recently?
Well, I think what's interesting is the brands have definitely tried to take a share of the secondary market themselves. So maybe like 2 years ago, this is a really like short time span in the grand scheme of sneakers, but even just like 2 years ago, a rare shoe was actually a rare shoe. Like if you wanted to find
Right.
Yeah.
a complex con or like a MoMA Air Force One, like you had to actually speak to someone like on the street that day, kind of vibe in New York, or you weren't going to find it. And
Right.
now you can find every single release like this. You don't even have to look hard, like every single shoe, no matter even the Air Force off-white lemonades. If you want to, you can find a pair of those in 2 seconds.
Yeah, like the canary yellow or whatever.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
ones released on the weekend. That's
Yeah,
not.
yeah. Those aren't rare. They're not,
I think they're marketed as very rare. That's kind of like the cream de la creme, like that's the rarest shoe that you
yeah.
can get these days, and that's just not a rare shoe at all.
Yeah, I was
So
making that argument. I bought the Jordan 1 trophy rooms. That was like one of the last sneakers that I bought. And those are numbered individually, I believe 12,000 pairs.
yeah,
And I mean, you think about it and you're like 12,000 pairs is objectively rare, if you think about the grand scheme of the sneaker market and how many people are into hype sneakers and whatnot. But I mean, at the end of the day, the Dior's were what, like 7,000 for the highs, 7,500 for the lows, or something like that in
Yeah.
terms of the quantities. Something in the 7,000s for
I
each.
think it's 8,500 for both.
Yeah, 8,500 for both, even. So, like, if you think about it, seeing a trophy room is rare than seeing either the Dior's, right? Like, if than seeing a pair of the lows or the highs. So I feel like the trophy room is a rare sneaker, but at the end of the day, since nobody got to have one, like the price is kind of like where it's at. It's been the same for a while. But these new releases, I mean, it's like you said, I mean, they're marketed as rare, and the buyer is kind of convinced to believe that they're buying a rare shoe. But at the end of the day, if you're seeing multiple people wear that same shoe on the street, is it really a rare shoe? Are you really going to be? Should it really be $2,000? $3,000?
Dude, I think even more than that. It's at least in my kind of circle, it's seeing every single reseller with the same super rare shoe. It's like,
Right.
for example, everyone. I think what happens now is everyone just kind of like drop ships off of each other's stock. So
Yeah.
everyone's pretending like they have a pair, but then in reality, like maybe only one of their friends has one, but just everyone's trying to offer that same pair on like every single one of their businesses.
Right.
Um,
That's dangerous though, man. The drop shipping stuff can be kind of risky. I mean,
this is
how competitive is the landscape right now? Like, is it getting a little too competitive? Are there too many players involved? Do you think?
this is I think this might be this is a heated path that we're walking down. But it's I have all 100% respect for anyone's business model, no matter what they decide, because there's a lot of challenges regardless of which path you take. But
Mm,
I think for me, something that I have a little bit of prejudice towards is more on the customer service side of things. With drop shipping, it's very easy to neglect customer service, and at the end of the day, a lot of these shoes, like, they demand a high price that is like beyond luxury. Like a 2,000 pound shoe is more than a shoe that you would buy in Gucci, for example. In
yeah.
Gucci, you're
Right.
like 10 out of 10 customer service. Like they're going to give you a glass of champagne or something while you're sitting there. And
Yeah. Yeah.
sneaker drop shippers, like, they'll sell you a shoe for 2,000 pounds and then won't talk to you for 3 weeks and then just buy it off of StockX and ship it to you in a box, or like not even double box. Like that's pretty crazy. But that's a tangent. To get to your question, I mean, like, it is super 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 competitive, and I think a year ago you could charge people kind of whatever price you wanted to if you had the confidence to do that. But now so many people are so educated with StockX, with Goat, with all these marketplaces, that it's you kind of have to match their price or beat it, and it
Mm,
just causes like a chain reaction where everyone's just undercutting each other, and
Right.
it's really hard to sell shoes currently. Like at the start of sorry, at the start of the pandemic, you could sell something without even trying.
yeah.
Post a
Yeah.
picture of it on the Instagram, let it sit there for a day, and you'd have like 10 messages for it. today
Literally.
Today, if your price isn't extremely competitive, people are gonna move on. It's very 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 competitive.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys are hearing this from somebody. I mean, how long have you been selling sneakers for, would you say?
Super legitimately, probably 5 years now.
Yeah. And I mean, you move a lot of units, right? At least, I'm under the impression that you do.
Yeah, I've got some good days, some good deals under
Yeah,
my.
I mean, we'll put up some pictures. I mean, I every time I think about you, I think about that picture that you had of all those pairs of Union Jordan ones,
Yeah.
That was
and
that was a
that's
good.
like a yeah, that was a great play. I mean, when those came out, I bought a pair in each of the colorways, and then nowadays I have two pairs in each of the colorways, and that's because I've always believed, and I continue to believe that that's like such a good shoe. But
I
you
think
really went out and bought. How many pairs did you have?
at peak I had 10. In that picture, I think it's 9 though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Of of just the blue one. That was my favorite.
yeah, just the blue one. Yeah,
Your thoughts on that shoe over time? I know we're talking about like rare Jordans and rare sneakers. I feel like that's still one that has retained its kind of clout in the culture, if you will. Your thoughts on the unions today?
One of my favorite Jordan ones or shoes in general of all time. To be honest, I think just
definitely.
the simplicity is so like legendarily beautiful. I mean, when you think of collabs, you think of like another brand just
Stamping something on.
exactly, yeah, stamping their ideas or their brand image on a shoe. And a lot of times that's not timeless. But when you look at the Union Jordan 1, they literally just took two of the or four of the most legendary Jordan 1 colorways that have been iconic for 35 years, timeless like without a doubt, and merged them together. That's like all they did. There's no branding on there. It's just the two best colorways merged, or four of the
Yeah,
best colorways merged. Like that is legendary. And I think that to me is going to be something that people are always going to look up to as one of the
it's
most
a
iconic
grail.
collaborations. Yeah, Grail I think is a good word for me to use, but I don't want to like preach that to someone else. I don't want to tell someone this is what you have to do
Yeah,
is your
no,
Grail.
for sure. I mean, it's a personal grail of mine. I think that's
Yeah,
for sure.
the blue
Even though I have them,
the blue pair is crazy. Blue pair is insane in my opinion.
I mean, the quality on them, that's pretty fucking spectacular as well.
One thing that's really interesting about the black toe, like just in my opinion, the two shoes like on their own, the black toe and the neutral gray, I prefer. But something about the combination on the blue toe is just a bit more exciting.
Mm.
It's definitely more exciting. I agree with that. But I think when it released, I 100% preferred the blue ones. But over time, I've grown to prefer the black toes because I think that's what you said. I think it's since it's less exciting, in my eyes, I guess it's a little more understated. I feel like
Yeah.
I like to rock those because they're. I mean, you can just wear like a pair of black pants and wear those. That's all
Yeah.
good.
To bring some I guess like metrics into it. What's interesting about I guess it was released in like December 2017 or 18. Um, Someone can fact check me, but definitely a December or November date. Um, when they released it, it was so clear that those were going to go up in value. Like
Yeah.
the secondary price was like £400, so like I don't know, $600. Um, that that was too cheap. I think
Yeah,
when you look at shoes that release now, they all hit the market too expensive. And from a
they
from a
come down over time.
yeah, from a resale perspective, like I've adopted 2 or 18 months ago to get a timeline into perspective. My strategy was along the lines of the union strategy. I mean, like you needed to get the inventory, lock it in, and just sit it out. But now
Yeah.
I could care less about locking it in ASAP and riding it out. I mean, the play now is to wait till it hits rock bottom and then sit it out. But
Hit the bottom of the depreciation curve.
yeah, and they go down for price for a solid like 3 6. Even like some of the shoes that released last year are still going down a year later. So I mean, if you would have bought them a year ago, you'd lose money. Um, that that's to me what's different about 2018 versus 2021 going forward. I think you're going to really struggle if you're trying to too hard to get stock for like a aesthetic, like to impress customers
Yeah.
versus like actual like financial decisions. Like it's a very very competitive, cutthroat industry these days, and I think you have to look more at shoes for money than like what the hype is telling you. If you
You,
just buy everything that's hype, you're gonna lose money for sure.
you made like a lot of really interesting points there. One of them is like the difference between the model of what you used to do with unions versus now. And one thing is that T and I have talked about on the pod before is that the unions are like the quality on those is insane. Like it's the shoe is just beautifully made. The quality is great. I mean, let's be real. Like most dunks, most Jordan ones, like the quality aren't isn't that great on these shoes. And with the unions, they are. And what's crazy is that like when a shoe releases, like you all both alluded to, the price just automatically jumps, and the quality of these shoes is not even there. And then like over time, the prices drop, and it's just interesting to me how that's just kind of the space that we're in right now.
You allude to my pride and joy these days, which I guess like no promo, but I
New Balance.
yeah, New Balance is the way to go forward. I think it's
Really?
I still stress myself out a little. I mean, I am buying New Balance with a financial mindset. I'm not
Mm.
trying to wear all the pairs that I buy. I'm trying to buy them to be ahead of the curve. Like I mean, 5 years ago, you could buy a 1994, 95 Chicago DS with box for like $400, or you
Yeah.
could buy any Jordan 1 for less than $300.
Mhm.
And at that time, the people who were buying them were just the people who love the colorway, and of course people who are fans of Jordan and the brand, but a
Yep.
lot of people were just buying it because they liked the shoe. Like it wasn't a fashion statement at the time. And I see the same trend happening with New Balance. And when you look at like the quality of New Balance as well, like
It's better,
I
right?
have I have my 550s that I've worn probably 100 times, and there's not a single crease on them at all.
Yeah, I saw that picture you put on your Instagram. That was pretty crazy, man.
The quality is insane, and 550
And
are not expensive.
honestly, they're not. Well, so that green pair. So I was gonna sell you my green pair that I had got for retail, and then we couldn't figure it out in the end. So I ended up holding on to them, and I held on to them, and like, bro, I sold those for like close to $600.
Yeah,
And they're like a dead stock pair of New Balances that I bought for retail online, like literally on the website. I hopped on the day, like I got this email, and I just hopped on. And I guess it was some kind of raffle, but I guess I ended up winning. Um, and yeah, I bought the pair online, and they resold like crazy a couple months later. So, I mean, I've been out. That's something I definitely wanted to talk on this episode because I know you've been a huge proponent of New Balance.
the thing that kind of like when it clicked for me was I read an article written by the sole supplier, and I think this, to be honest, I feel like is free advice for anyone listening. Not financial advice, but like this is quite a valuable statistic that I think puts everything in full circle. Um, they wrote an article about search trends in sneakers, and the conclusion basically, I'll cut all the middle bits, but New Balance is second over Adidas, over Yeezy, just
Mm.
under Nike. And that's an upward trend from before. They weren't like that until this year. So if New Balance is on the up, but the New Balance secondary market is not at all. Like now it is, but like 6 months ago, New Balances were cheap.
So
Uh,
basically, it's the time to buy.
100%. I mean, the shoes that I've bought on the secondary market, like the shoes that I've picked to invest in over the last year, of my investments, like my holds, I guess, the ones where I've achieved the most percentage profit is by far the Soleil Bembury New Balance.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
bought those for like 180 pounds, like easily. People did not want them at all. Like everyone was just getting rid of them, getting rid of them, getting rid of them. And now I'm selling pairs for like 400 pounds. So
Wow.
it's over 100%. And like,
Wow.
I mean, with the
Yeah.
bottom I was aiming for like 40%, but they just kept going and going and going. So I just wrote it out. But I mean, you're not, there's no real, there's been a few exceptions, but on the majority of Nike releases, there have not been double your money type investments that you could acquire from the secondary market. For retail, like if you win a raffle, yeah, sure. But
Yeah.
if you're coming in at the secondary prices and buying them, New Balance has a lot of room to grow because a lot of these are just so cheap already.
Right.
Like people buy. I had a lot of friends who bought like, I don't know. This might be a touchy subject, but trophy rooms, for example,
Yeah,
The
for
back
a
doors.
high price tag, thinking that they're gonna make double their money. It's like you it the higher the price is, the harder it is for you to double your money. Like
absolutely,
if you're paying $2,000, you have to then sell that shoe for 4,000. If you look at the
absolutely.
market, there's not many shoes that sell for $4,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
Yeah.
you get a New Balance and it's $200 to sell a shoe for 400, like that happens all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, it might be a question of an accessibility thing too. Like obviously we've seen and like you mentioned, New Balances are more affordable. They're also like extremely comfortable, extremely functional. The materials on a lot of these pairs are really good. I mean, the 550s, for example, like I'll just use my sister as an example. She doesn't know what ALD is, right? She doesn't know the brand, but she loves the 550s. Everyone's rocking the 550s. And that's like bringing in like this new audience of people who, they look at a dunk and they're like, why is this dunk $300 400? Like this isn't worth it. I can buy a New Balance for under. T Your thoughts on the New Balance wave? How are you digging it?
yeah. I mean, that comment you made about your sister, I feel like I was in New York City and I saw a bunch of girls wearing ALD 550s, right?
Yeah.
Because, you see like Bella Hadid rocks those shoes, like supermodels wear New Balance these days. So you can see how it would trickle over into, popular culture and eventually into the youth of today. I guess they want to dress like celebrities that they like and whatnot. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And I personally currently only own one pair of New Balances, and it's a pair of ALD 550s.
Nice.
And yeah, and I mean, I think it's a great looking shoe. I'm yet to wear it because unfortunately it's in the US with a lot of my stuff in storage.
Yeah.
But I think they're a great looking shoe. And I do believe and agree with Sam that I do see them on an upwards trajectory as a brand. They have a lot of good people. They do a lot of collabs. They do a lot of good shoes in general.
You know what else is interesting about the 550 is it has like one thing that I try and look at in shoes is kind of that legacy or that like iconic factor.
Mm.
And the 550 is an OG like 1980s basketball shoe in its own right as well. So I mean, one thing that my parents always preach to me when I'm going maybe above my means in a certain shoe investment is like, this is all trends, like in 5 years, are people still going to want this shoe? And I think
Yeah.
a 550 and a Jordan 1, I think do stand the test of trend cycles, and like they do come back around. Maybe there's not a like maybe there's a market peak and a trough, but they're always going to be sought after.
Man, that's interesting.
Absolutely.
That's because T and I were talking about that a couple weeks ago. We're like, I mean, like the 550s are fucking everywhere, dude. And like we were kind of like debating a little bit about like, yeah, like this is obviously a trend, but is this, I mean, by the end of the summer, are we even going to see people rocking these anymore? Like, will it come back after? And I just don't know. I feel like you said, it could be like a Jordan 1 where it comes back and it ebbs and flows. But I'm curious to see how the 550 kind of stands, especially now with this new grown hype, how it does, 5-10 years from now.
I'm not gonna try and like self-proclaim myself as like some kind of prophet or anything like crazy like that. Like I have no idea where the trend cycle is going to go, but I do think that like it does have all the right ingredients to be a good long lasting trendy pair of shoes. Even I mean like even the Louis Vuitton,
The
um
trainers, man.
yeah, they look like 550s. So I mean,
Mm.
if you want to try and save yourself some money and go for the cheaper option, which I think a lot of people will, the New Balance is that alternative. It's like the in the UK at least, the smoke gray mids went up like from 100. You could literally buy them. This is one of those anomalies. You could buy them for £110 on the secondary market before the Dior release. Now for small like women's sizes, they are over £400.
It's
Wow.
So that's
crazy.
Speaking of the trainers, LV trainers, I know T's a huge fan of that sneaker. I've yet to hold a pair, but now that I'm in New York, hopefully I can see him in person here soon. But from an investment perspective, like, what are your thoughts on that sneaker? Because it's a luxury sneaker, obviously the barrier to entry is a lot higher. Like, it's become synonymous with Virgil, and his time at LV. Do you think that's a sneaker that we'll see go up in price, or is it maybe not because it's luxury?
Um,
Those are on
my
StockX now, man.
Yeah, they are.
one on StockX. My experience has taught me that luxury is a much harder market to get like a good secondary profit from.
100%.
But I do think they have definitely become successful as a silhouette. So I'm not it's not something that I personally will ever buy
Okay.
into.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think that it does have significance in the market today. So I wouldn't be surprised if you told me that you could make a quick hundred on them or something like that. But it's not in my strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you that the margins would not be worthwhile, for the investment. The original colorways, especially the original white and green and like black cement looking pairs that were really in the first release that he did, those go for like maybe 200 or $300 over retail. I
Just
mean, if you think
brand,
about it, excuse me,
just brand new, or do they even sell over for used?
they sell over for used as well, just because that pair, it's a very popular colorway, I guess. But at the end of the day, it's like a $1,200 shoe, so it's like you're gonna pay that much to make $200. I don't know. For me, it's not really a shoe. I don't own any more pair of those. I think the silhouette's clean, but there's a lot of colorways these days, and I feel like everybody kind of has that shoe now, at least in one certain colorway. So, in my personal opinion, the appeal of it is, steadily declining.
I feel like also in the luxury sneaker industry or market in the last, let's go back about 8 years. Every like 2 years, there's that one shoe that for the moment it will be super sought after, where it exceeds supply and people will pay a premium, but they always die out. Like, I mean,
Like the Triple S.
yeah, triple S, but also
Triple
arena.
S.
Bro, even before Triple S, arenas you couldn't buy them,
Yeah,
even if you tried every single Balenciaga store in the whole world.
yeah.
Uh,
Kanye effect.
And now you can't even sell those, bro. No one's buying triple S's. No one's really buying tracks. Like, they're just kind of,
yeah. So I think luxury is even more trendy than streetwear, and it's not something that I personally am interested in. I do know friends who have success with it. I do know that there is someone in Europe who does sell insane quantity of luxury shoes
Mm,
and is making a good living. But I think I think it's hard. It's just, you got to know what you're doing, and you got to willing. I guess you've got to be willing to put in a lot of money.
for sure.
So Sam, now get into a bit, how you got into the game. How did you really get into sneakers, clothes, and then eventually, selling sneakers?
The That's gonna take me way back. I guess the roots. I used to. So this is when I think I'm gonna jump around and jitter all over the place here because things are gonna come back to me while I'm talking. But
No worries.
what I remember is when I was like 15, in Zurich, Switzerland. I was reading all the kind of like fashion blogs. I'm trying to remember what one of them was called, but I just can't remember at all. Um, I think one of them was called like Upscale Hype, I think, but not too sure on that one. Anyways, I was reading these blogs, and one of them would go over kind of like what the rappers and
Yeah, upscale hype. I think that's right. I think I
nice.
remember that.
It would just kind of be like fit pics, and then like it would break it
Yeah,
down.
break down their outfit, like exactly what they
Yeah,
were
I think I
wearing.
remember that too, bro. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago. But
Yeah.
that kind of is like how I learned about all the different models and all the different colorways, and started seeing like, wow, that's a cool shoe. Like I'd love to wear a pair of those with my fits, or I don't have never seen anything like that kind of vibe. Just all the above, and started to kind of figure out where I could even get shoes, just reading more stuff online, and realized that we had a store in Zurich called Titolo, which had
Titolo, yeah.
which had a tier 0 account, got all the cool shoes. I mean, at the time there weren't crazy releases like there are now, but
Hmm.
they
They had
got,
like the original Yeezy 750s, like
well, yeah. So this at this time, this was like even before that, bro. Like bread Jordan 1s, like the 2013 release, uh,
damn.
Damn.
and Fire Red Jordan 3s, also I think 2013, might have been 2014. But like I just went and camped out for those shoes. Um, the real kind of like catalyst was just reading stuff online, and seeing what I thought looked cool. And then I stumbled across like Flight Club and saw that the shoes were selling for like $300, which to me was like crazy. Like I thought never could afford one of those ever, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Right.
and then when I graduated high school, my dream was to go to a college town in the US, live the like frat party scene and college sports, and the whole image that they portray to you in
Mm.
movies.
Yeah, yeah.
So I moved to Boulder, Colorado, and went to University of Boulder, Colorado. Had a great time for a year and a half. And in in the US, I mean, you meet, compared to Europe, it's a different type of sneakerhead. I mean,
Yeah.
in the US, it's more of a Jordan vibe.
Mm.
Whereas in Europe at the time, like, and what got me into it was more of just fashion, like trying to look fly, you know, like
Yeah.
look.
Right.
But in the US, my friends were into it because they actually cared about like Jordan and the whole history behind each model, and every other player exclusive,
Yeah.
Kobe, and all the above. Um, so I just kind of sat and learned, took everything in, learned about the culture from a different perspective, and started to like it even more. I mean, this was something that I had just moved across the entire world, and was meeting new people for the first time, but shared a we were able to instantly connect because we could talk about shoes. And like
Right.
ultimately, that's also the reason why we're talking now today, is because of shoes, you know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started to get into it more for the community element, and just had a good time with friends, and that that ultimately has gotten to me to where I am today. That's kind of been like, the community has been a foundation for everything that I've gone on to do past day one. So like Proxied, for example, Facebook groups, even Zuckerswag now today. Like I really try and build a relationship with every single person. It's not really about just selling a shoe and making money. I'm actually just trying to meet people and have fun. You know, it's kind of like a unique element to the industry,
Yeah.
which really what got me involved,
Yeah.
which I think is also unfortunately fading.
Yeah.
But I
Absolutely.
give it a little bit of grace, because I think it might be fading because we've all been locked inside for. I hope it's fading because we've all been locked inside for a year and a half. Like there's no events that you could go to, so
Right.
I hope that's the case. But it's definitely fading a little bit. But yeah, I guess, I mean, yeah, I just wanted to look cool, and stumbled across stuff online, and then met more people in the US, and just snowballed from there. Nothing too crazy.
I mean, it's. I mean, I say this all the time. It's like, I mean, even with how T and I met, like, I just hit him up about the podcast, and then we ended up like hitting it off. And it's like, T and I come from two different parts of the world. Like, like he's and the other guys on the team come from very different parts of the world. And it's like, but we all have, regardless of how we grew up, kind of like where our life trajectory has taken us, we have like this common bond of clothing, of shoes, and that has even transcended that to where the point where I consider these guys friends beyond just the clothes, And I think that's something.
Yeah.
And at T, I mean, you met a lot of people, this way too. I think that's something that you can vouch for as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking about when Sam was talking about, the sense of community and shit. I mean, Sam and I are friends through a mutual friend. Shout out Guan.
Mm,
Our boy Oliver Guan. Hopefully he's gonna be on the podcast soon.
yes, sir.
I mean, we met because of Guan, and Guan and I met over Instagram. So I mean, really at the end of the day, Sam
Yeah,
and I met because of the community as well.
yeah. I met Guan because we were both Facebook admins of the same group, and then just
Yeah, literally. It's crazy
oh,
like how one small like mutual interest and literally like find you a whole new friend in the world. Like that's pretty crazy to me.
Yeah,
I think that's how it should be, though.
yeah, I
Oh,
think so too.
definitely.
I think so too.
That's
Yeah.
like when you talk to people about. I mean, I don't want to be like, I don't know, preaching like OG kind of vibes or anything, but like when you talk to a lot of people now today, like resellers, even they don't have that community passion, which is
Mhm.
kind of it's a bummer, like these are people that you could literally like work together for life with.
Yeah.
But
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, we'll get T back in here in a second. I think you probably lost connection or something. But one thing I wanted to ask you is just about proxy, like your thoughts on proxying, how proxying has changed over the years. If it's still something that you view as, I don't know, like yeah, just your overall thoughts on proxying as a business model.
as a business model, I think now there's definitely been a hit because at least in the UK, you can't really do in-store releases.
Okay.
Uh, and I mean, I guess I can backtrack where I mean, I didn't get the idea from anyone. It's like not my idea. A lot of people were doing it, but to me, what was so cool about proxying is it was kind of like a pre-order in a sense.
Mm,
And at the time, like this is like 5 years ago. I mean, StockX was not around, Goat was not around, Depop, Grailed, like all these places, they weren't tailored to the market like they are now. Um, so you really like you could only buy things off of eBay or through like a friend of a friend of a friend. Like it was kind of like buying drugs, like you had to have it at 5 years ago, you had to have kind of like a shoe dealer,
You have to
like
have a plug. Yeah.
yeah. And and a lot of times the what I learned when I came to London is that it is a very, very competitive, like behind the scenes, like
yeah.
or on the streets, not behind the scenes, on the streets, the way that these plugs were getting product, unless you were getting it like backdoor, which is a whole nother conversation in its own. But
Yeah.
is they would just pay like college students $20 to sleep on the street for a night, and these kids
Fucking wild, man.
they didn't have the retail money to buy the product themselves. So if they're getting 20 for a night, like that's a great night's work,
Yeah.
and it's easy. Just hang out, drink some beers, do whatever you want,
Yeah.
um, and you get paid. No other job can you do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you
legally.
get paid to wait.
Yeah, but you get paid to wait like with your friends, which is what's fun.
But these
Um,
days,
Yeah.
it's not as lucrative. It's not as practiced, if
no,
you
no,
will.
yeah, not at all. But what I wanted to do, I went off on a tangent. Sorry, but what I wanted to do is when I got here, I wanted to help out these little dudes who. Well, that's a very weird way to describe them, but
Like smaller
these
sellers.
small, yeah, these smaller sellers, because they for the life of them like just couldn't get the money together before the drop. And I'm thinking like, all right, I have friends who really really want this stuff outside of London, are willing to pay super premiums on eBay like in 2 hours. What if I just connect you two and he'll pay you more than what this kingpin is going to be paying you for sleeping on the street, and you sell it to him for less than what what the kingpin is going to charge him.
Mm,
Win for everyone. And that kind of like took off in London. Like I started meeting so many people and just decided, all right, I'm going to make a Facebook group for this because I can't WhatsApp every single one of you every
yeah.
single day, and made a Facebook group, and it instantly, or not instantly, seems like instantly, but it quickly grew to 15,000 members. And
Wow.
that was like the organized structure of London releases. Like if we went to like Supreme Louis Vuitton or Supreme any day, like my Facebook post would put organization to like the chaos on the streets, and people respected it. Like
Mm,
it was a way for them to get money because they knew that the buyers were in there too. So they wanted to be in the
Right.
group, able to sell the stuff
Jesus.
because there was no other avenue to sell it. And after about a year of orchestrating all the madness, I realized like, okay, look, people are making, or I guess like total generated revenue is over millions of pounds in this Facebook group. Every single day, like people are selling shoes for 2,000 pounds, Supreme box logos for 1,000 pounds times 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
how can I turn this into a scalable business to solve a problem that like is not being solved? And the vision was a marketplace. Unfortunately, we kind of got tapped out versus bigger players. Our timing was not favorable. Like when we started, StockX had no presence in London. Now they do.
They have
Uh,
their office.
they did a drop off collection point just like
Yeah.
us. Um, it unfortunately didn't work out, but it was a great run while it lasted. But proxying when things are normal, I think is a great way to do business.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion.
And I think T, you can speak to this. I think like for particularly for Japan, it's still very lucrative because Japan
Yeah,
seems so like off cut from the rest of the world, and people are interested in Japanese clothing. And I feel like proxying is still very valid on that in that part of the world.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. If you're in the right place, like if there's demand for products in your region, take advantage of it 100% because it's kind of risk free. Like that's also a huge selling point. Is like if you can sell something before you even have to buy it, it literally is risk.
Exactly. Risk free. No, I mean, I think that like proxying kind of died down when prices started getting really crazy. Like before there used to be no sneakers that were over $1,000. And then very quickly, there were 2,000, 3,000, $4,000 sneakers. And at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not going to take a $200 proxy fee for a sneaker that I'm going to flip for a $2,000 profit. At the end of the day, I'm going to buy that myself and I'm going to sell it.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
So
the definition definitely changed.
exactly. Like the line became very blurred, who was a proxy, who was a reseller, like, were you both,
The way that or like the way that I defined it was more just kind of like paying some. It was more just a pre-order. It's paying something
Right.
before it released, or selling something before it released. It was just
Yeah.
another
And
way.
having kind of like a secure way to provide it, I
Yeah,
guess.
from us, like a proxy also would be from someone who's like on the streets. Like you wouldn't really get a
Yeah.
proxy like a personal shopper. A personal shopper is going to give you a pre-order. Personal
Right.
shopper isn't going to proxy you.
He's going to charge you a fuck ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, also on that note, like a big kind of like point in the sneaker industry, or like a blurred description or definition, is kind of like people often get really angry at resellers for charging high prices, but they only charge high prices because people pay it. Like
Exactly.
a shoe is only worth what someone wants to pay. So you can't get angry. You can't get angry at a reseller for connecting the dots. Get angry at your fellow sneaker community member who actually will pay the price.
Yeah.
Like
That's the truth.
there's been a couple of my friends who have tried to like market manipulate certain releases that are like a cold wall Air Force One highs. I think they released like 150 at the pop up,
Yeah.
and we kind of knew like we controlled that drop really.
Right.
We kind of discussed between ourselves, we're not going to sell the shoe for anything under 2,000 pounds, and if none of us drop the price, they have to pay it. But what
Jesus,
happened
man.
what happened is no one paid it, so no one sold any of their shoes. So then it's kind of it literally is like a slap across the face. Like a shoe is only worth what someone's willing to pay. Like I'm not gonna sit here and tell you to like undercut for like 400 pounds and that's gonna change the market price. But I mean, like if someone's only willing to pay 400 pounds, it's gonna sell for. You can't sell it for 8,000 like you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of friends who still have their pairs because they were just too greedy. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on market price.
Makes sense.
Sam, wrapping up on some pretty good time. I do want to ask you before we wrap up. What are the future plans for your business. So, what is the future looking in a if a post pandemic world, if we will, as weird as that seems.
Slow and steady. Just
Mm,
trying to have fun with it. I mean, there's a lot of things that like kind of go on behind the scenes, like picking shoes to kind of like invest in, is something that I'm quite passionate about, and that doesn't necessarily come up like on the Instagram or on the store because they're
yeah.
more of a whole. So just kind of making the right moves in front of the audience and behind the scenes, not really caring too much about what might be happening somewhere like in another business, another person's page or whatever. Just focusing on my own clients, I think
Yeah.
is just the slow and steady path. Nothing too exciting. For me, it's something that like maybe it's ambitious, but it's something that I always see as being a side hustle. To be honest, it's just something that if you do the work that's required after hours, you can easily just have it running in the background while you're off doing other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, the plan is just keep it going, see where things go, not try and make any rash investment decisions and lose money in some bricks. But
Yeah, I think that's kind of like what the Selective too, right? T is, we have a lot of discussions on like what products we're trying to move, and a lot of those discussions are, it's risk versus being a little conservative, and it's a whole ordeal.
I think
Yeah, definitely.
consistency is key,
Mm,
because if you sell like Nike's Air Force Ones for 5 years, and the hype shoe at the moment is New Balance, and you start trying to sell New Balance, that's not what your customers want. Like it's going to throw things off. Maybe you'll get some new customers, but you're also going to confuse all your loyal ones.
Yeah,
I think just pick something that you're or at least my plan is pick what I enjoy doing, go with the flow, and not try and do anything too crazy otherwise.
absolutely.
You
And
guys,
before we end off, actually, I'm curious, and I feel like some people would be curious to know what your top five favorite sneakers, I guess, of all time are. They don't have to be in your collection necessarily, but
I feel like I'm blessed enough to have had the time and patience to, I guess, acquire. There's still some that are probably grails that would be cool to have, but I'll answer the question. In no particular order, I really love the Fragment Jordan ones, and that that
absolutely,
that's
that's
T's
that's
goaded
probably
pair,
absolutely.
man. That's T's goaded pair.
I actually was lucky enough to meet Hiroshi and get my box signed to Sam,
Wow.
uh,
Yeah.
from
Yeah, I
Hiroshi.
remember you sent me a picture of that, and I was so jealous, dude. That shoe for me is such a grail, such a grail.
That was the most expensive pair of shoes I had ever bought, and I bought those in like 2017. Brand new DS OG all. I think I paid £1,100,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
I paid $1,200 for my pair.
damn. That for me that was like I told the seller like I really want them. Just let me like mentally prepare for the amount of money that's about to leave my bank account on a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's one thing like in life. I also wore those on the day that I had kept them DS for like 3 years, and then I wore them on the day that we opened the Proxy store. And now like so glad I've worn them. Like I get so much enjoyment and happiness from wearing those shoes. So that's
absolutely,
definitely up there. I'm glad it's up there for you too, T. But
100%.
next in the list, probably 1994 Chicago's.
Mm,
I just feel like in comparison to all the retro Chicago's, I mean it will change over time, but currently 2021, the way they've aged is so sexy. Like
yeah.
the
Dude, the
yellow,
box,
yeah, the
the
yellow. The
box is
box is
so
cool.
nice.
The box is cool. I got my pair from Ben Henry for now very cheap.
Yeah, you know, I've actually talked to him about that, and he's like, "Damn, dude, I sold those to him for a steal. Like, I regret selling him those."
Dude, I didn't even like pressure him or negotiate with him. Like he just told me a price and I said okay, which at the time was like market price, but that changed.
Yeah,
That changed fast. But yeah, I feel like
yeah, I have a dead stock pair of 94s as well.
damn. Oh, is
Yeah,
that the pair that you got?
yeah. You
Yeah.
actually referred me to that pair, dude. You sent me the link, and Sam literally sends me this link, and he's like, "Yo, these are dead stock. The price isn't bad. I think these are your size." And I just like, "Yo, hold up," and I just bought them.
Jesus Christ.
Those are a fun pair of shoes to buy because those are hard to find. Like you can't just find them, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, 94, that's what, 27 years ago?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
20. I was born 96. So yeah, 27 years ago. Yeah.
That's insane. Like 27 years ago, and you have a shoe that's dead stock. Literally, it's never touched the floor. Like no one's ever laced them up. You
Dude,
know?
on that note,
Older
I
than
have
me,
a
bro.
I have a sad story.
Oh no.
I was thinking it's not that sad actually. For me it's sad, but it's not a sad story. So I came across this was after I had received like I sold a lot of shoes and like had more money than I usually do in my bank account.
This is
And
when you started selling your collection.
well, this was like about 6 months before this was a while ago. This was like 6 months before Proxy started.
Yeah.
But I sold a lot of shoes to just kind of like be more responsible. And a 1985 Chicago Jordan 1 size US 9 DS OG all
No.
one day
Wow.
came up on my Instagram feed and the price was $3,000.
Wow.
And
It's like
that
20,000 today.
priceless today. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
really. I don't know the last time I've seen like a perfectly flawless DS OG all. But I looked at it for like 20 minutes and I was just thinking like this would be the most expensive shoe I've ever bought in my whole life. Is it something like should I buy it? And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, like this is in theory, like I just talked exactly what you said, like
Yeah.
what are the odds that someone has kept a pair brand new with the box for 30 whatever years at that time? Like that's just not normal. Like that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would have bought a pair in 1985 and not worn them? Even
No,
more than
and kept a box. Like, who keeps the box in 1985? It's worthless. It's a piece of cardboard back
yeah.
then, you know?
Like there must not be more than 10 pairs of this shoe.
I agree.
I'm gonna buy them.
Damn.
My mom was like, that is the craziest thing you've ever said, but your money, your risk, like if you lose all your money, that's your problem. You're on your own. And I just said, like, yeah, I'm ready. And went
They
back
were
to the
sold.
went back to the website to buy them and they were sold.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, bro.
Within
Oh, it's
within,
always
like,
like that.
within like 20 minutes. And still like to this day, I've never come across a pair like that ever again. But
Jesus.
It's always like that, dude. It's always like that.
yeah, that you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
But I think I'll remember that for a long time. But I guess like other pairs in my top five. I mean, like just from I don't like to really include these, but like just from a hype factor, I feel like I have to include the rust pinks and the igloos just because of
Yeah.
Mhm.
what they symbolize now today.
They're priceless these days. They're so expensive. It's crazy.
But that is a rare shoe. Like those,
Yeah.
word on the street is there's like 200 of each pair.
Yeah.
Which I don't think they're going to do things like that very often.
Yeah.
Again, another grail then I guess like to top off the list is a shoe that I don't have and I don't know if I ever will have, but the HTM Fragment Air Force One friends and family pair, the white pair, like white crocodile leather with the white Fragment stamp on the heel, is a shoe
I
that
think I've seen those.
Yeah, I have a picture right here. These look fucking insane.
they're so clean. Like that's just such a clean shoe, and as a Fragment fan, that's like it ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
So that's definitely in the top five. I did come across a pair. I don't know if you guys know the I was trying to look up his account the other day. I think he took it down, but the store manager of Kith Paris, Frankie, he has a pair.
Wow.
And he posted
Damn.
them on his Instagram. And I messaged him about them, like, I'll trade you all my shoes. And he was like, haha, no. I was like, yeah, fair. But
Fair.
those, I think also maybe Truest Hawaii has a pair.
He probably does.
I don't know if he has the white pair, but he definitely has a Fragment HTM Air Force of some variation.
Interesting.
And that's also a store that I would love to go to. That just looks like one of the more like sneakerhead community friendly spots like that.
Yeah,
I think would be really fun to go to. But I guess that's like that's a rough top 5 in no order.
well, that's a good top 5. And it's a good way to end the pod, man. Sam, dude,
I was gonna ask your top 3s or top notable mentions quickly before we leave.
For me, Black Toe Unions,
Nice.
Neutral Gray 85s. And then if I were to do another one, I don't know, probably the 750s for their status. T.
I used to love the triple black pair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple pair of those. Honorable mention. I'm not sure, man. I like the
backdoors, bro.
I think the shattered backdoors, of course. But what's it called? 85s. Any pair of 85s is just like, if you think about it, just it's a shoe from 1985. Like that's enough, to justify the fact that should be a legendary shoe.
Yeah.
Can I ask one super last question?
Yeah.
I have my opinion, but thoughts, because we all kind of mentioned, I think we all notably know that an neutral gray 85 is a beautiful shoe. Thoughts on a neutral gray 2021?
So I wanted to buy a pair, and T was like, I don't know if you should do it because it's not the same. And then I looked at the shoe for a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, it's not the same, so I didn't buy it. so I was kind of influenced not to buy it. I mean, I want the 85s, bro. So, but those are not. They're not. I mean, every day passes, they get rarer and rarer. So, I don't know.
My opinion on the reiteration. I don't own a pair. Will never buy a pair. I don't want that shoe. I've seen it way too many times, especially on Instagram. Like, even the 85 pair in my eyes has been like a little tarnished, to be honest. I would way rather have like a metallic pair of 85s. Like a really nice metallic pair of 85s.
Yeah, I like the blue pair.
Yeah, I love any pair of the metallics. Those are so nice, and the way they age and crack is so beautiful. But that's another story for another time.
Yeah, fair.
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I'm curious, but I feel like they butchered the retro.
Yeah.
Neutral.
Yeah, thank you.
It's just not.
I was hoping you weren't going to be like, yeah, that's my favorite shoe.
No. No, that I really like the colorway, but for somehow I don't know what they did. It just doesn't work.
The shape isn't the same. The shape isn't the same, man. Like once you see it, you can never unsee it. The toe box is like too round. That shoe has a problem.
I feel like I missed out. I would not do myself justice if I did not give mention to a New Balance in my top 5 favorite.
Oh yeah. What's your favorite New Balance? Number 1.
Stussy 990. I just like white shoes. That's really, really clean pair. A pair of New Balance that I have never been able to find ever, no matter how hard I try over the last year and a half, which also kind of made me like New Balance because it resembled OG Nike hunting days, is the Stray Rats 990.
The Stray Rats one is hard to find, dude. That's a clean shoe too.
Can't find it anywhere ever. Like never ever. I don't understand, but yeah. Shout out New Balance. That wraps up the top 5.
Shout out New Balance, man. Shout out Sam for coming on the pod, bro. Yeah, it was a pleasure to chop it up. It was a pleasure to talk and get to know you a little bit more and talk about your business. Obviously, you're a walking encyclopedia, so one day we'll get you back on the pod again to chop it up more. But Sam, man, thank you so much for coming on the pod. T, anything you wanna plug, anything you wanna shout out before we get out of here?
Yeah, man, Sam, thank you again. As Exsar said, it was a pleasure to have you on the pod, man. I think this has been a really fun episode. Yeah, I'm hoping to have you back on the pod sometime soon, man.
Ready any day. It was a pleasure. Great chat. And
absolutely.
Thank you more than anything.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Guys,
See,
that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Selective Podcast. Of course, as always, keep it locked in on Selective for future drops, editorials, and of course, the podcast on a weekly basis. T and I will be back next week for a Q&A, so be on the lookout for that. That's it for Sam, for T and I. Thank you so much for listening to the pod, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.